Hi, I'm the Sad Panda, and this is going to be the 12th episode in my series, I Read This, Should You? Where basically I give you a review on a book, manga, or web novel that I've read, and you decide whether or not to read it. We've gone over this enough times, but this episode is going to be on one of the books that makes me feel the most nostalgia. When I started my, big reading kick in, 5th grade. And to start that, I read all of the Percy Jackson books when I was in 5th grade. Now, Percy Jackson is a great series for children, for young people, the story doesn't hold up as well now, but it just has so much nostalgia for me, and I got to meet Rick Riordan in my middle school. But yeah, this episode is going to be on Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Well, not specifically Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I'm probably just going to touch on the books and the book series and what it means to me because it is near and dear to my heart. Now, Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief is the first book in the series. It's about a young man. He's about 13 years old. His name is Percy. Perseus Jackson, named after the Greek hero Perseus, son of Zeus, at least that's what his mom says, because she wants him to have good luck. And Percy is a troubled child. He has dyslexia, and he gets kicked out of a lot of schools. He has, ADD or ADHD? I don't remember which one it is. It's the one where it makes you not be able to focus and fidget a lot. And we find out later why that is. But Percy ends up going on a field trip with his school, the current one that he's in, and his teacher, Mr. Bruner, I think is what it's called. He's a older man in a wheelchair. They take them on the field trip, and they go to a Greek museum. And in this Greek museum is where Percy gets his first taste of the Greek world and the mythology that is in it, when he has to face a fury that was his teacher. Not Mr. Burner, but the other chaperone teacher. Now, the way I remember this story, I remember it so fondly whenever I think of it, no matter when I think of it, because this just had so much of what I like today in books and in reading. It has great action sequences, it has a good amount of comedy, and it has the realism. Obviously it's not realistic because it's gods and monsters and stuff, but it's realistic in the way that you would expect these things to go. You would expect that a god is kind of apathetic to their children. Why would they care? They're a god, they've lived for thousands of years, all that stuff. And you also get you have to deal with the fact that your parents made a mistake, which is what you are considered, even if you are a purpose child. Percy is the son of Poseidon, which is one of the big three, quote, quote, in this story. So the big three are Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. And in the lore of the story, they made a pact after World War II, because World War II in the lore is apparently, it was a war between the sons and daughters of Hades and the sons and daughters of Zeus and Poseidon, and that's what World War II was. So they decided that after World War II, they're not going to have any children because, their children are too powerful, they're half of, the big three gods, they're too strong, they cause too much, and there's, a prophecy where when one of these children get to be of a certain age, that they could start the, apocalypse or war against the Titans again. So they decide that, okay, we're not gonna have any kids. Well, it turns out that most gods, just like in real life and mythology, if you read up on it, most gods can't keep it in their pants. Zeus has tons of kids in mythology, and Poseidon has a bunch of kids, and gods aren't very faithful to their wives. Even Aphrodite, which is married to Hephaestus, which is the god of the forge, and Aphrodite is the god of love. Even though they're married, she still goes out and has kids with Ares and all these other gods. It's just a whole lot of craziness. But what I'm getting to is that Poseidon had a kid with a human woman, and she ends up, Percy ends up having to deal with that as it's his consequence. So the first book takes place in this school, right? And they go on this field trip, and he has to fight a Fury, and he gets like gaslit super hard. They're like, no, that's not real, man. That's not real. Because in this world, there's a thing called the mist, and it essentially covers up the mythological from the mortals. So us. So we would, like, our eyes are coated in the mist. So if we see like a monster or like a hellhound, it would just look like a big dog, like a big wolf or something. That's like, oh, that's a feral wolf. We got to stay away from that. Obviously, it's going to be still kind of scary for us, but it's not going to be the same. Like, it's obviously, if you saw a hellhound in real life, you would probably die because it's a hellhound. But it's that kind of stuff. So he gets gaslit really hard because he had to kill this Fury, and Mr. Burner, which turns out to be Chiron, which is the legendary like teacher of like Greek heroes in the lore, like Perseus, like the original Perseus, son of Zeus, not Perseus, son of Poseidon. But it's this whole thing. But he gets gaslit by him and his friend named Grover, which ends up being a satyr. Like, all the people around him, even his mom, which she doesn't tell him that he's a demigod until she gets stolen by Hades. Because Hades, in the book, okay, so I'm going to split this up real quick. In the book and in the movie, there's two different things, okay? So I know a lot of you are, when I bring up Percy Jackson, think of the movie, and the movie is bad. It's not correct at all. It doesn't go with the story. Like, Luke doesn't die in the book, or he doesn't get stabbed in the throat by a trident or whatever. No. So, but what does happen, just like in the movie, Percy's mom gets taken by the Minotaur. That's a fact. And gets taken to what's it called? Hades, to essentially hell, or the underworld is what it's called. So she gets taken to the underworld, and Hades, the reason why he takes her isn't the reason in the movie. In the movie, Hades thinks that Percy stole the lightning bolt, and he wants it because he wants power or whatever. But in the book, what actually happens is Hades thinks Percy stole his helm of darkness. Now, every god has their like symbol of power, which is their like weapon that is like their weapon of choice. So like Athena's got Argus, which is a shield. Zeus has his lightning bolt. Poseidon has his trident. Zeus has a helm of darkness, and it essentially, when you put it on, you become one with the shadows, and you can like shadow teleport and all that stuff, and it's really cool. But Hades thinks that Percy stole his helm of darkness. He doesn't care at all about the lightning bolt, because his helm of darkness was also stolen. So he has to go to the underworld to get his mom back, and he has to find the lightning bolt for Zeus, because when the summer solstice comes around, and if it's not found, Zeus and Poseidon are going to go to war, because Zeus thinks that Poseidon had his son, Perseus, that he's not even supposed to have, steal his lightning bolt for Poseidon so he can become the king of the gods. And Poseidon obviously didn't do that, and he's like, I didn't do that. But gods are really petty, and even if you tell the whole truth, there's no way of like, well, I guess they're okay. So I was going to say, there's no way to like hold a god to their word. I mean, technically there is. You can swear in the river Styx, which is something that in the later on in the books, like they swear on the river Styx. When you swear on the Styx, it's like it's like a truth thing. If you lie, you get punished. The punishment, I don't know what it is. I don't think they ever break like one of those like stick promises. But I don't think really anything happens to gods. But like mortals will die if or like demigods would die if they were to swear on Styx and then break it. But I think it's because gods, they can't really die. There's just like no punishment really. But you can swear on Styx, and that's what I'm getting at. Anyways, so they're about to go to war. So they're waiting till the summer solstice because Zeus, even though he thinks it's Poseidon, he doesn't know for sure. So he's like, well, I'm going to give you till this time. You figure it out. Someone stole it, and I know that it had to be you. That's Zeus. And Poseidon's like, obviously I didn't fucking do that. Why would I do that? and he's like, all right, and they have to issue a quest. So when you get issued a quest, you have to go see the Oracle, which at Camp Half-Blood, which is where all the Half-Bloods go, because other gods can still have kids, and when they do, they get attacked by monsters because they can see through the mist. It's this whole thing. But Percy gets issued a quest where he has to go west to the god that is turned and find what the god that is turned and find what is lost and find it safely returned. That's like the whole like quest. So he's supposed to go to the West Coast and go find the god that is turned. That is all that it said, because all of the prophecies in the books are super like they all have like double meanings. So obviously what they think is like, oh, it has to be Hades, right? Like Hades, like the quest is that he has to find what is lost, but they think that Hades has the bolt. So if he brings the Helm of Darkness to Hades, he can get the bolt and bring it to Zeus. That's Percy's thought process. So he has to choose 2 other people to go west with him on his quest, because in Greek mythology, apparently 3 is a lucky number, so they have to go with 3 people. So he chooses Grover, and he chooses a girl that he just met named Annabeth, who is a daughter of Athena, and they go on. So Annabeth and Percy, in the movie, they have this weird romantic chemistry, but in the book, that's not a thing until like way later, like way later. Like they don't there's no like romance or anything until like I think the 3rd book or the 4th book. I'm not sure, but it's when Percy blows up a mountain, because he's the son of Poseidon, you know, the earth shaker, and he like blows up a mountain, which is like a volcano, just to try to save people. And you know, they have this like romantic touching moment. But back to the 1st book, he chooses Annabeth because she's been a camper for a long time, which is what they call the people at Camp Half-Blood. When they like, all you do at Camp Half-Blood is you like eat, sleep, train, and there's like war games that they do, like Capture the Flag and stuff, where they use like actual blades and like actual shields and stuff. And that's just what happens. And so they go on this adventure, right? Percy gets claimed at Camp Half-Blood. It's a thing that happens when the god's like, hey, this is my son. And that's how Zeus figured it out, because, you know. But anyway, he goes on this quest. They go west. That rhymes. Bars. Anyways, they go west, and they meet up with Ares. So when in the book, there's one of the best fight scenes ever, and I'll explain in a second, between Ares and Percy. So when Percy like meets Ares for the first time, apparently there's this like aura around him where like you want to fight, because you know Ares is the god of war, and the thing that he likes the most is war, and that's what he's inciting. Which, spoiler alert, it's Ares. Ares is the one. It's not actually Hades. It's not actually Percy. It's Ares. Whoa, the guy that likes war wants to start a war between the gods? Whoa, that's mind-blowing. But no, he meets Ares, and Ares gives him this shield, which is where he gets the shield. In the movie, Luke gives him the shield. Now, Ares gives him the shield because he wants... no, he doesn't give him a shield. He gives him a backpack. Sorry. But he has to retrieve a shield. So Ares is like, hey, I know you're on a quest right now, and I know it's really important, but I need you to do something for me. See, me and my girlfriend, Aphrodite, were out, and Heptus caught us, and they tried to trap us, and we had to leave in a hurry, and I left my shield there. He's like, go get it. And he's like, okay, I'll go get it, and then I'll bring it back. And that's what he did. He went and got it. They almost get trapped by Heptus's spiders. He makes a bunch of, like, robotic spiders and cameras, and, like, tries to tie up Percy and like Annabeth and Grover, who's the other person that's there, and they try to tie him up and like show him on like live TV to the Olympians, because that's what Heptus likes to do. He likes to embarrass Aphrodite and Ares because he knows that they cheat or whatever. But they get out of that fine. He brings the shield back, and Ares is like, for your trouble, here's a backpack, and it's filled with like money and food and ambrosia, which is like the food of the gods, that if demigods eat it, they can only eat a little bit, but it will heal their wounds a little bit. And he gives them that, and they obviously they open it, look through it, and they have like a bunch of money and stuff. And they keep going, And it turns out that this backpack is enchanted. So as they get closer and closer to Hades, or in the underworld, they get closer and closer to like Hades' palace. The backpack gets heavier and heavier as they get closer, and that's just, they don't know why. It just is what it is. But he gets there, and it turns out that Ares put the lightning bolt in the backpack. Now, I'm not going to go over the reason why, because if you want to read this, well, actually, I might go over the reason why anyway. The story, the series is kind of old, you know, you can get the synopsis pretty easy. So, well, the goal is that the winged shoes that Luke gave him, which if you watch the movie, Luke gave Percy a pair of winged shoes, you know, he's like, oh, Hermes and all that. But he gets a pair of winged shoes, and obviously Percy is like, well, I'm this. He doesn't put them on. Like in the book, he doesn't put them on because the god of the sea or the son of the god of the sea shouldn't be flying around in the sky. Like they make a big point of it. Like that's why they didn't take a plane to the West Coast, because Zeus was like, if you fly, I'm gonna blow you up. Like that's the whole thing. Because gods are super petty like that. Anyways, so he gets there, and Hades is like, if you don't have my helm, then why do you have the lightning bolt? And Percy's like, I don't have it. I don't know what you mean. I don't have it. And he's like, then give me your backpack. And he takes the backpack, takes out the lightning bolt. He's like, then what is this? What is this? Why do you have it? And it turns out that Luke stole the lightning bolt and the helm of darkness and gave them to Ares, because in the books, gods can't steal each other's symbols of power. You can't do it. So Ares has both the lightning bolt and the helm of darkness, and he enchanted the backpack to bring it to Hades to incite the war even further. But his actual plot was to, Luke and Ares are in cahoots together. Luke gave Percy the shoes. So the goal was Percy puts on the shoes and has the backpack on. The shoes fly him into Tartarus, which is like the darkest, deepest pit of like death and despair that you can think of. It's way worse than the underworld. That's like, the underworld is where everyone goes when they die. Like you can go to the fields of Asphodel, you can go to Elysium, you can go to the fields of punishment. This is all in the underworld, but there's a deeper part. So like the fields of punishment is where like the bad people go, and then like Tartarus is where like Hitler goes. You know, it's where like the bad people go. It's not where like, oh, I didn't pay my taxes my whole life. You know, that's bad, obviously. So you might go to the fields of punishment, but no, you will not go to Tartarus unless you're like a mass murderer or something like that. So the goal was Percy to have the shoes on, the backpack on, the shoes fly him into Tartarus, where Kronos is, the titan of time, and so Kronos could reform and fight the gods. So this is the reason why Zeus and Poseidon and Hades decided not to have kids, because there's a prophecy, an ancient prophecy, that if the son of the big three end up getting to, I think, 16 or whatever, they will either destroy, or it is either raise the world with a Z, so destroy the world, or save the world. You know, they don't know which one. So they're like, no more kids. And then, you know, Percy and there's other big three kids, because obviously the gods can't keep it in their pants. So then the fight happens. They get out of the underworld with the lightning bolt, because Hades is like, I don't want any more power. Bureaucracy isn't for me, because he already has to govern all of the underworld, and he thinks that's already a difficult enough job. He doesn't want any extra power. He doesn't want anything like that. So he's like, just get my helm back and we're fine. You can have your mom, but I need that back. And if you don't, then I'm going to kill you, essentially. So they go back up, and they're on the West Coast still. And Ares shows up, and he's like, wow, you survived. I'm really surprised, because he genuinely is surprised that they lived, because like the whole idea was to get either them into Tartarus and die, or to get Hades to kill them because he has the lightning bolt when he says he doesn't. Gods are petty, but that didn't happen. And Ares has one of the coolest lines. That was the whole fight between Ares and Perseus was cut from the movie, but one of the coolest lines is when Ares, he like holds out his hands and like they ignite in fire, and then like a sword, like a bronze sword shows up, and a rifle shows up, and he's like, how do you want to die, modern or classic? And it is the most, it is so hardcore. And obviously Percy is a sword fighter, so he pulls out his sword and they get ready to duke it out. And at first Ares is beating his ass because, I mean, he's a god. He's the god of war. I mean, what do you want? But after Percy gets like the home field advantage by stepping into the ocean and like using the power of his dad, like, because when he's in the water, he gets more powerful, he heals faster. It's like this whole thing. So he steps into the ocean and then they fight again and he wins. And he takes the Helm of Darkness, gives it to the Fury that he fought originally in the book, the one he killed early, gives it to her, and she brings it back to Hades. He goes to Zeus with the lightning bolt. Bam, war's averted. But the best part that really proves that gods are petty is after he does that, after he brings the lightning bolt back, they still discuss whether or not to kill him. Like, it just shows that, like, the gods, they don't care what you do for them. They do not care at all. Like, he saved, like, they stopped them from having a war, and this war would have killed like some of the gods for sure. Like, in this world, gods can die, they can fade, which is really scary if you think about it. I mean, they can exist infinitely, but if they are forgotten gods or something, they can just fade away. And I don't know if that's a painful process, but a god in the maze, I forget what the book is called, but they have to go into Daedalus' maze, you know, with like the Minotaur and stuff, and they find Pan, who is also there, which is like one of the gods of like the wild, and he's like dying and fading away, and he just fades and gives the last of his power to Grover. But that's a whole thing. And like, but gods can fade, so he saves them from dying, and yet they're still like, well, now that you're here, we can discuss whether or not you live. Like, it's crazy. But the series is good, right? I think the series is good. I just think it's a little young, right? The whole story is like pretty juvenile. Like, the story isn't really all that great. The character development isn't all that great. The fight scenes are really good. Like, the choreography, like when you read it, it's really nicely written. And Rick Riordan's really good at that. Like, if you are younger, if you're like a younger person, I would definitely recommend you read it, because it's a good thing to get you into reading, right? It's like the power fantasy you can think of. It's like the realism of like, sometimes even if you do everything in your power to help somebody, they still might not care. Like, that kind of stuff. It's really good, right? I think the series as a whole is like an 8, because there's like, in the Percy Jackson series, I think there's like 5 books, and then there's 4 books that are in the Heroes of Olympus, which is another series that is separate, but it's a continuation, right? And it's really good, and I really like it. Like, some of the side characters like Jason and Piper, they're good characters. I like them a lot. Leo is a fun character. I would recommend you give it a shot if you have the time, if you have the resources. Go to iBooks and get an audiobook of it, or go to Audible and get an audiobook of it. It's worth your time. I think it is, at least. But yeah, that's it. And also, thank everybody for subscribing, and leave a like, comment. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I read every comment. I answer every comment. Even the ones that are spam that pop up every once in a while. There's like spam comments that'll be like, it'll say like a timestamp of like 34 seconds or something like that, and then it'll be like dot and then like a bunch of letters for no reason, and then I'll respond to it, be like, what does this mean? And then the comment's gone. So I don't know, but I respond to all of them, and I thank everyone for listening to me ramble. This is a little bit longer. I didn't think it would be this long. I just realized now that when I get to talking and get to be excited about something, this is what happens. And I have a lot of nostalgia for the Percy Jackson books. I'm 21 now, and I can still remember, the first few books really vividly, even though it's like one of the first things that I really dived into, as a reader. And it has a dear part of my heart. I have the Sea of Monsters in my room somewhere that's signed by Rick Riordan. It's my favorite one in the series. I don't know, it's just worth your time. And thanks. Have a great day.